Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Nimisha Jadon from School of Studies Environmental Chemistry, Jivaji University, Gwalior. Today we are going to discuss about a module Health Aspects, Toxicology and Allergenicity under the paper of Environmental Biotechnology. The learning objective of this module included environment and health, changing disease pattern, health hazards, toxicology, xenobiotic or endogenous substances, then kinetic and dynamic phase of this endogenous or xenobiotic compounds, then teratogenesis, mutagenesis, carcinogenesis, and their effects on the immune and the reproductive system. One of the most pressing problem that we are facing today is the release of large quantity of a variety of chemicals into the environment. This leads to air, water and soil pollution and food contamination. Furthermore, the release of these chemicals is not limited to the area adjacent to the point source, such as industrial facilities. Rather, the chemicals can be transferred to the distant areas and the regions where they may elicit detrimental effects on the living organisms. While environmental pollution has been a major concern for the several decades, there has been an increasing awareness concerning towards the impacts of air and water pollution and the disposal of the toxic waste on human health. The human diseases and casualties arises from the water pollution attracted much attention throughout the world following the incidences of the Minamata disease, which is caused by the mercury disposal in water, then Itai Oyo or the Ouch disease, which is which is generated by the increased concentration of the cadmium in the grains. Then the Minamata disease was caused by eating fishes and the shellfish laden with the high toxic methyl mercury, while the Itai Oyo bio mainly attributed to the consumption of the rice contaminated with the high level of the cadmium. In addition to affecting human health, directly water pollution also threatens the aquatic life, particularly fishes. For instance, in the early 1960s, millions of the fish in the lower Mississippi River died from the effect of chlorinated organic pesticides, particularly Aldrin. In the early 1970s, contamination of the fish with the DDT and the PCBs, that are the polychlorinated biphenyls, caused an abrupt halt to the commercial salmon fish in the upper Great Lakes.
Changing disease pattern. Associated with the changes in our environment are the changing pattern and distribution of diseases or the health effects have been discussed here. For instance, at the turn of the century, pneumonia and the tuberculosis were the two leading causes of death in most of the countries, including the United States. Because of improved sanitation and public health measures, coupled with advancement in medical sciences and technology, tuberculosis and many other contagious diseases have largely been eradicated. In place of these relatively straightforward illness, however, are diseases that have multiple causes, that is the chronic cardiovascular, respiratory diseases and the malignant neoplasm or the cancers. Now we discuss about the health hazards. The many diseases have long been related to the occupation. The British doctor P. Pott is widely recognized as the scientist who in 1775 first pointed out the direct connection between the occupational exposure and the risk of a specific cancer, that is chimney sweeps and the cancer of the scrotum. The miners, stone cutters and the lens grinders often developed respiratory disease from inhaling large quantities of dust. Many hatters suffered brain damage as a result of absorbing highly toxic mercury vapors from the mercurial, the chemical compound that containing the mercury used in making felt. Asphalt, coal tar, pitch worker, textile dyer and shoe and the leather worker are suspected of having an increased risk of developing bladder cancer because of their association with coal products and aromatic amines. However, in the past several decades, environmental diseases have spread beyond those in a few specialized occupations. Among the most serious are cancer, respiratory diseases, birth defects, heavy metal poisoning and injury to the reproductive system. These are briefly examined, which number 1 is cancer. The study shows that nearly 30% of the total mortality in several industrialized countries is due to cancer. The cancer incidence and the mortality in most of these countries have been consistently increasing. Moreover, this trend is independent of the aging of the population. Major causes that were suggested include lifestyle, personal habits and diet. However, these hypotheses have overlooked the role of environmental changes caused by industrial activities. The industrial development has been expanding at an accelerating rate. This has resulted in release of a large number and quantity of the chemicals into the environment and polluting the air, water and soil and potentially contaminated the food that we consume. The second is the birth defects. In a person's lifespan, a period of greatest susceptibility to exogenous injury is during the early stages of morphogenesis. It is estimated that approximately 3% of all live births in the United States have significant birth defects. This represents about 1 lakh congenital anomalies in a total of 3 million lives birth annually. The intrauterine growth and retardation can be caused by a number of agents including hypoxia, drugs, X-ray irradiation, maternal endocrine and nutritional factors and environmental chemicals. Many chemical species are known to be teratogenic, that is capable of causing birth defects. The chemicals include various organic solvents, pesticides, dioxins, several heavy metals such as lead, cadmium, mercury and others. The many human epidemiological data support the claim that environmental chemicals are an important factor responsible for inducing teratogenicity. For example, in an earlier study by the Ohio Department of Health, it was found that the women in 3 communities with PVC, that polyvinyl chloride plants, more children with the birth defects and other malformations than women in other communities in the state. The next is the reproductive damage. Recent studies have shown that a variety of toxicants can induce detrimental effects on reproductive systems in animals and humans. For instance, reproductive damage in seagulls and other wildlife presented some of the first clues about the adverse effects of DDT. Organochlorines have also been implicated in impaired reproductive success in fish populations of the Baltic and the North Seas. These compounds also adversely affect the health and the reproduction of seals. More recently, reproductive anomalies in wildlife have sparked concern about the ability of a number of chemicals to cause ill effects by disrupting the body's normal hormonal system. An increasing number of chemicals are now known to have such action. Examples include organochlorines such as PCBs, dioxins, as well as DDT, pesticides such as carbamates, for example aldicarb and carbofurane, triazine like atrazine and simazine, and the pyrethroids, heavy metals such as cadmium, lead, mercury, organo, brominate compounds and others. The next one is the respiratory diseases. Many epidemiological and the animal studies have shown that airborne pollutants are commonly found in the urban environment in concentrations high enough to adversely affect the lungs. During the last 4 decades, chronic bronchitis, emphysema and lung cancer have become more major public health problems in the United States and other major industrialized countries. The next is the heavy metal induced diseases. Following the Industrial Revolution, the production of heavy metals such as copper, lead, zinc increased dramatically. Between the 1850 and 1990, production of these three metals rose nearly tenfold, with concomitant increases in the emission of various metals including lead, cadmium, mercury and nickel. Another toxic element is arsenic. In limited geographical areas, some of these metals and non-metallic elements accumulate to excessive levels because of industrial pollution and have produced major outbreak of chronic illness in human.
Now we discuss about the toxicology. A poison or a toxicant is a substance that is harmful to the living organism because of its detrimental effects on tissue organ or the biological processes. The toxicology is the science of poison. Whether a substance is poisonous depends upon the type of organism exposed and the amount of substance and the route of exposure. In the case of human exposure, the degree of harm done by a poison can depend strongly upon whether the exposure is to the skin or by inhalation or through the ingestion. The matrix may have a strong effect upon the toxicity of the toxicant. The another important factor is the toxicant concentration, which may range from the pure substance, that is 100%, down to a very dilute solution of a highly potent poison. Both the duration of the exposure, per exposure incident and the frequency of exposure are also very important parameter of identifying the toxicity. The rate of exposure and the total time period over which the organism is exposed are both important situation variables. The exposure site and the route also affect the toxicity. It is possible to clarify exposures on the basis of acute and versus the chronic and the local versus the systemic exposure, giving the 4 general categories. The acute local exposure occurs at a specific location over a time period of a few seconds to a few hours and may affect the exposure site, particularly the skin, eyes or mucous membrane.
This figure shows the major sites of exposure, metabolism and storage routes of distribution and elimination of the toxic substances in the body. There are 3 entry sites. Number 1 is ingestion, where the substance passes through the gastrointestinal tract, where it is excreted in the form of feces, and if it is metabolized in the body, it is passes through the blood and lymph system, where it is bound with the either with the protein or the metabolized in the other form, or distribution of free bound and metabolic form is also taken part by using this system. And finally it is transferred to the liver, bile and the other body tissues. Then the second entry site is the inhaled air, where the pulmonary system like lungs and alveoli inhale the air with the toxicant, and excretion is carried out by the exhaled air, and some of part if necessary to bind with the blood of the lymph system of the body. Then the third entry site is the dermal exposure, where it is absorbed by the skin and again passes through the blood and lymph system, where the toxicant is bound in a bone on the fat. These are the portion where the toxicant are mostly stored, and they are also transferred to the cell membrane, which are working as a receptor cells, and some of this part is excreted by kidney, bladder in the form of urine. Now we discuss about the relative toxicities. In terms of fatal doses to an adult human of average size, a taste of a super toxic substances, just a few drop or less, is fatal. A teaspoonful of a very toxic substance could have the same effect. However, as much as a quart of a slightly toxic substance might be required to kill an adult human. When there is a substantial difference between LD50 values of the two different substances, the one with the lower value is said to be the more potent. This table shows the toxicity scales with the examples of the substances and their rating of toxicity. The LD50 value is that value which is required to kill at least 50% of the test animal species. So the maximum part of the toxicity is determined in terms of their LD50 value. Here the substance as well as their LD50 value is mentioned in this table. Now the next that we have discussed about the xenobiotic and the endogenous substances. Xenobiotic substances are those that are foreign to the living system, whereas those that occur naturally in a biological system are termed endogenous. The levels of endogenous substances must usually fall within a particular concentration range in order for metabolic processes to occur normally. Examples of endogenous substances in organisms include various hormones, glucose and some essential metal ions including calcium, potassium, sodium. The optimum level of calcium in human blood serum occurs over a rather narrow range of 9 to 9.5 mg per deciliter. Below these values, a deficiency response known as hypocalcemia occurs, manifested by muscle cramping. At serum level above about 10.5 mg per deciliter, hypercalcemia occurs, the major effects of which is kidney malfunction. The next is the toxicant in the body. The process by which the organism metabolizes xenobiotic species are enzyme catalyzed phase 1 and phase 2 reactions, which are described briefly here. In the phase 1 reaction, lipophilic xenobiotic species in the body tend to undergo phase 1 reaction that make them more water soluble and reactive by the attachment of polar functional groups such as OR. Most phase 1 processes are microsomal mixed function oxidase reactions catalyzed by the cytochrome P450 enzyme system associated with the endoplasmic reticulum of the cell and occurring most abundantly in the liver of the vertebrates. In the phase 2 reaction, a phase occurs when an endogenous species is attached by the enzyme action to a polar functional group, which often, though not always, is the result of a phase 1 reaction on a xenobiotic species. Phase 2 reactions are called conjugation actions, in which the enzymes attach conjugating agents to xenobiotics and their phase 1 reaction products and non-xenobiotic compounds. The conjugation product of such a reaction is usually less toxic than the original xenobiotic compound, less lipid soluble, more water soluble, and more readily eliminated from the body. The major conjugating agents and the enzymes that catalyze their phase 2 reactions are glucuronide, that is UDP, glucuronyl transferase enzyme, that is glutathione transferase enzyme, sulfate, that is sulfotransferase enzyme, and acetyl, that is acetylation by acetyl transferase enzyme. The most abundant conjugation products are glucuronides. A glucuronides conjugate is illustrated in figure, where XR represent the xenobiotic species conjugated to glucuronide and R is an organic moiety. For example, if the xenobiotic compound conjugated is phenol, then HXR is HOC6H5X is the atom and R represent the phenyl group, that is C6H5. This figure illustrates the phase 1 reaction where the lipophilic poorly water soluble or unmetabolized xenobiotic substance with the help of cytochrome enzyme system convert into the more water soluble reactive substances like epoxide, hydroxide, sulfohydryl, hydroxylamine and the others. In the phase 2 reaction, these xenobiotic compounds which are generated by the phase 1 reaction product is react with the endogenous conjugating agent and they are increasing their polarity, greater water solubility and more easily they are eliminated from the body. This figure shows the glucuronide conjugated from a xenobiotic, that is glucuronide group is attached with the XR group, that is known as xenobiotic.
Now we discuss about the kinetic phase and the dynamic phase. Toxicant in the body are metabolized, transported or the excreted. They have adverse biochemical effects and they cause the manifestation of the poisoning. It is convenient to divide these processes into two major phases, a kinetic phase and the dynamic phase. In the kinetic phase, a toxicant or the metabolic precursor of the toxic substance, that is known as protoxicant, may undergo either by the absorption, metabolism, temporary storage, distribution and the excretion processes. A toxicant that is absorbed may be passed through the kinetic phase unchanged as an active parent compound, metabolized to a detoxified metabolite that is excreted from the body, or converted to a toxic active metabolite which generates any toxic effects on the human body. In the dynamic phase, a toxicant or the toxic metabolite interact with the cell, tissues or the organs in the body to cause some toxic response. The three major subdivisions of the dynamic phase are included: primary reaction with the receptor or the target organ, then the biochemical response, and finally the observable effects.
This figure shows the process involve toxicants or protoxicant in the kinetic phase. In this phase, the toxicant or the protoxicant is, when transferred into the body, either it is detoxified and excreted from the body, or it remains as unchanged and worked as an active parent compound to further biochemical interaction, or either it is metabolized and convert to the more metabolized, or the protoxicant is also metabolized and converted into the more toxic form, and they are working as an active metabolite to further biochemical interaction. In this figure, the toxicant or the toxic metabolite undergoes in the primary reaction where it is react with the receptor and modified the receptor. Then when the receptor is modified, it will show some biochemical effects like enzyme inhibition, cell membrane disruption, malfunction of protein biosynthesis, disruption of lipid metabolite, disruption of carbohydrate metabolism, inhibition of respiration, and finally it will see as a behavioral or physiological response like alteration of vital signs like temperature, pulse rate, respiratory rate, blood pressure. Then the central nervous system damage like hallucination, convulsion, coma, ataxia, paralysis have been generated by the action of this toxicant. Then teratogenesis, mutagenesis, carcinogenesis, and it is also affect the immune system.
Now, first of all, we have discussed about the teratogenesis. The teratogens are the chemical species that causes birth defects. These usually arises from the damage of embryonic or the fetal cells. However, mutations in the germ cells, eggs or the sperm cells may cause birth defects such as Down syndrome. The biochemical mechanism of teratogenesis are varied, and these include enzyme inhibition by xenobiotic derivation, xenobiotic deprivation of the fetus of essential substances or the substrates such as vitamins, and interfere with the energy supply or alteration of the permeability of the placental membrane. The next effect is known as mutagenesis. The mutagens alter the DNA to produce the inheritable traits. Although mutation is a natural process that occurs even in the absence of xenobiotic substances, and most of the mutations are harmful. The mechanism of mutagenicity are similar to those of carcinogenicity, and mutagens often cause birth defects as well. Therefore, mutagenic hazardous substances are of major toxicological concern.
The next is the carcinogenesis. The cancer is a condition characterized by the uncontrolled replication and growth of the body's own somatic cells. The carcinogenic agents may be categorized as chemical agents such as nitrosamines and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, then biological agents such as herpesvirus and retrovirus, then ionizing radiation such as X-rays, genetic factors such as selective breeding.
Now the next is the immune system response. The immune system acts as the body's natural defense mechanism or the system to protect it from the xenobiotic chemicals. Infectious agents such as viruses or the bacteria and the neoplastic cells which give rise to the cancerous tissues. Adverse effect on the body's immune system are being increasingly recognized as important consequences of exposure to hazardous substances. Toxicants can cause immunosuppression, which is the impairment of the body's natural defense mechanism. Xenobiotic can also cause the immune system to lose its ability to control the cell proliferation, resulting in leukemia or the lymphoma. The another major toxic response of the immune system is the allergy or hypersensitivity. This kind of condition results when the immune system overreacts to the presence of foreign agents or its metabolites in a self-destructive manner. Among the xenobiotic materials that can cause such reactions are beryllium, chromium, nickel, formaldehyde, some kind of pesticide, resins, or the plasticizers.
The next is the assessment of potential exposure. A critical step in assessing exposure to toxic substances such as those from hazardous waste sites is evaluation of potentially exposed populations. The most direct approach to this is to determine chemicals or their metabolic products in organisms. For inorganic species, this is most readily done for heavy metals, radionuclides, and some minerals such as asbestos. Symptoms associated with exposure to particular chemicals may also be evaluated. Examples of such effects include readily apparent effects, for example, skin rashes, or subclinical effects such as chromosomal damage. The next is the epidemiological evidence. The epidemiological studies applied to toxic environmental pollutants, such as those from hazardous waste, attempt to correlate observations of particular illnesses with the probable exposure to such waste. There are two major approaches to such studies. The one approach is to look for diseases known to be caused by particular agents in areas where the exposure is likely from such agents in hazardous waste. A second approach is to look for clusters consisting of an abnormally large number of cases of a particular disease in a limited geographical areas, then attempt to locate sources of exposure to hazardous waste that may be responsible. The most common types of maladies observed in clusters are spontaneous abortions, birth defects, and the particular type of cancer. Then, estimation of health effects risk. An important part of estimating the risk of adverse health effects from exposure to toxicants involves extrapolation from experimentally observable data. Usually, the end result needed is an estimate of a low occurrence of a disease in human after a long latency period resulting from low level exposure to a toxicant for a long period of time. The data available are almost always taken from the animals exposed to high level of the substance for a relatively short period of time. Extrapolation is then made using linear or curvilinear projections to estimate the risk to human populations. There are, of course, very substantial uncertainties in this kind of approach.
Now we discuss about the risk assessment. The toxicological considerations are very important to estimating potential dangers of pollutants and the hazardous waste chemicals. One of the major way in which the toxicology interfaces with the area of hazardous waste is in the health risk assessment, providing guidance for risk management, cleanup or regulation needed at a hazardous waste site based upon the knowledge about the site and the chemical and the toxicological properties of waste in it. The risk assessment includes the factors of the site characteristics, substances present including indicator species, potential receptors, potential exposure pathways, and uncertainty analysis. It may be divided into the following major components that included identification of the hazard, next is the dose response assessment, next is the exposure assessment, and finally the risk characterization.
Number one is the hazard identification. It is the process of determining whether or not a particular chemical is causally linked to particular health effects, such as cancer or the birth defects. Because human data are so often difficult to obtain, This step usually focused on whether a chemical is toxic in animals or other test organisms. The second step is the dose response assessment. It is the process of characterizing the relationship between the dose of an agent administered or received and the incidence of an adverse health effect shown. Many different dose response relationships are possible for any given agent depending on such conditions as whether the response is carcinogenic or non-carcinogenic and whether the experiment is a one-time acute test or a long-term chronic test. Because most tests are performed with high doses, the dose response assessment must include a consideration for the proper method of extrapolating data to low exposure rates that humans are likely experienced. Part of the assessment must also include a method of extrapolating animal data to humans. The third is the exposure assessment. It involves determining the size and the nature of the population that has been exposed to the toxicants under consideration and the length of time and toxicants concentration to which they have been exposed. Consideration must be given to such factors as the age and the health of the exposed population, smoking history, and the likelihood that members of the population might be pregnant and whether or not synergistic effects might occur due to the exposure to multiple toxicants. The next step is the risk characterization. It is the integration of the foregoing three steps which results in an estimate of the magnitude of the public health problem.
So at the end of this module, we can summarize this module that the present module describe about the increasing industrialization, expanding technology, and the economy coupled with the growing world population in recent decades and their drastic impact on human health. However, these factors changes the pattern of the diseases and causes of teratogenesis, carcinogenesis, and mutagenesis we have also discussed here, and their toxicology and their toxicological impact on human body we have also discussed in detail in this module. Thank you so much.